In the legal world, words aren't just words. They can be weapons. And today, we're going to dive into a landmark divorce case from India's Supreme Court that's all about that very idea. It's a story that asks a really powerful question. When does an accusation cross the line from just a personal fight into an act of legal cruelty?
The legal battle we're talking about today lasted for 17 years. Just let that sink in for a sec. More than a decade and a half spent fighting in court, a period of time way longer than the marriage itself ever was.
And that really gets us to the absolute heart of this whole thing, right? You've got a couple that lives together for just over a year, but they spend the next 17 years locked in a legal war. What could possibly have happened in those 13 months to spark a fight that long and that bitter? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to piece together today. Now, to really understand this story, we've got to do something a little weird. We're actually going to start at the end, with a verdict that pretty much shocked everyone involved.
So get this, after nearly 2 decades of fighting, and after 2 lower courts had already told the husband no, the Supreme Court of India steps in and grants the divorce. This final decision completely flipped the script on the previous rulings. So what on earth did the highest court in the land see that the others had completely missed?
To find that answer, we have to rewind all the way back to the beginning, because the core of this entire case was just this firestorm of allegations where the husband and the wife painted 2 totally different and really disturbing pictures of their life together.
On one side, you have the husband. He's an army captain. He claimed his wife, who happened to be a lawyer, was causing him extreme mental agony, threatening him with her legal know-how and trying to destroy his military career with false complaints. But then, on the other side, the wife tells this story of just horrific abuse. We're talking dowry demands, physical violence, a forced miscarriage, abandonment. It's just 2 people, 1 marriage, and 2 stories that absolutely cannot both be true.
So this explosive battle of allegations begins its incredibly long, winding journey through the Indian legal system. And at each step, the courts came to a dramatically different conclusion.
First up, the trial court. It basically sided with the wife, saying the husband just hadn't proven his claims of cruelty. So, divorce denied. Next, it goes up to the high court. They kind of took a middle path, saying, hey, there's fault on both sides, but they only ordered a judicial separation. That means they live apart, but they're still legally married. Divorce, again, was denied. Which brings us back to the big question. What did the Supreme Court see that made them break this pattern so decisively?
The answer, it turns out, was hiding in plain sight. It was all in the evidence. The Supreme Court didn't find some new smoking gun. They just looked at the wife's own words and actions in a way the lower courts hadn't. And this, right here, is where the whole case turns.
Okay, listen to this. This bizarre, really dehumanizing description of her husband. This wasn't something he claimed she said. This was a direct quote from her own written legal complaint. The court looked at that and said, wait a minute, by officially comparing your husband to a barking dog in a legal document, you're not just complaining, you're engaging in some serious character assassination.
And it did not stop there. In her complaint, she had accused him of forcing unnatural sex on her. Now, when she was pressed under oath to define exactly what she meant, she specified sodomy. For the court, this was a huge deal. It wasn't a vague accusation anymore. It was a very specific, very serious criminal allegation that, if it wasn't true, was a profound act of cruelty designed to absolutely destroy his reputation.
Beyond her words, the court then looked at her actions. She filed a whole slew of criminal cases against her husband and his family over the years. And the result? Every single one was either dismissed, thrown out, or ended in an acquittal. The Supreme Court didn't see these as just a bunch of random incidents. No, they saw a clear pattern of using the legal system itself as a weapon to harass him. But the act the court ultimately called intolerable, the one that seemed to be the final straw, was a criminal complaint the wife filed accusing her elderly father-in-law of molesting her. That case was also thrown out as baseless. And the Supreme Court's finding here was so powerful. They basically asked, for a son, could there possibly be a greater act of cruelty than your wife falsely accusing your own father of such a terrible crime? For the court, this was the ultimate betrayal.
So what's the bigger picture here? This isn't just about one family's tragic story. This judgment really helped clarify and redefine what mental cruelty actually means in the modern legal world, especially in an age when words can be the primary weapon.
Yeah, one of the key things to get from this is that mental cruelty isn't some simple checklist. The law actually keeps it pretty vague on purpose. It forces courts to look at everything. the couple's education, their social standing, the specific details of their lives, what might be considered cruel for an army officer and a lawyer could be seen totally differently in another situation.
So what's the anatomy of mental cruelty, according to this case? Well, it's a consistent pattern of baseless, malicious attacks. It's weaponizing the legal system just to harass someone. It's character assassination meant to destroy a person's reputation, both at work and in their personal life. At its core, it's a sustained campaign that makes it absolutely impossible for the marriage to ever continue.
And finally, the court left us with this really kind of haunting admission. After everything, the judges flat out acknowledged that the marriage was irretrievably broken down. But they said that alone isn't enough. The law, as it's written, required them to find proof of cruelty. And it leaves us with this really provocative question. When a marriage is so clearly over, after 17 years of pure agony, should the law really require one person to publicly destroy the other just to be set free?